Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spirit Speakeasy. I'm Joy Giovanni, Joyful Medium. I'm a working psychic medium, energy healer, and spiritual gifts mentor. This podcast is like a seat at the table in a secret club, but with mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. So come behind the velvet ropes with me and see inside my world as I chat insider style with profoundly gifted souls. We go deep, share juicy stories, laugh a lot, and it wouldn't be a speakeasy without great insider secrets and tips. You might even learn that you have some gifts of your own. So step inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Hey, beautiful soul. I am so excited for this episode of Spirit Speakeasy. I've been waiting for a little while for this interview. Today we have on this incredible guest, Julie Reisler. You'll hear me read her bio in just a few minutes as I'm welcoming her in, but she is an incredible life coach and she also trains life coaches. She really just shares so much with us today in this conversation about really getting in touch with your own intuition, what that's meant for her in her life, what that means in her coaching, and just how she's seen it make such an impact in her life and the lives of others. I actually found her during the lockdown time, the pandemic time, when I was searching for new podcasts. So I've been a fan of her show, the You-est You, for several years now, and she is in my regular rotation. So those of you that sometimes are asking me, what am I listening to? Julie is one of the people that inspires me and that I am always taking profound nuggets of wisdom from the talks that she does, from her work. She's got an incredible book that she's going to talk about with us, her coaching program, and she even has a free gift for all of you that I'm going to link in the show notes. We talk a little bit about it, but it's called a Life Coach's Tool Set, and it's a 7-day workbook to design your best life, where we can get set up for success with powerful coaching techniques that can help anyone design their best life. And that's you and I. And whether you are a coach or not a coach, or, learning about this world of intuition and coaching, this tool set can help you start to dive in as kind of a first step on your journey or a next step on your journey, depending where you are. So check that out in the show notes. And sit tight for this conversation with beautiful soul, Julie Reisler. Welcome back, or welcome in to Spirit Speakeasy. We have an incredible guest today that I'm so excited to share with you. I'm going to launch into her bio because I really want to get started chatting with her. Our guest today is Julie Reisler. She was voted top 10 most influential life coaches in 2023. She's a board certified master life and wellness coach and is an interior designer for your soul. She's a mentor to hundreds of coaches, change makers, and soul entrepreneurs. Julie is the host of the You-est You podcast, a global show in over 175 countries now, and is the author of Get a PhD in You, an Amazon top pick. Julie has been featured in Forbes, Mind Body Green, the Chopra Center, Bustle, Thrive Global, and her work as a coach and teacher and conscious business leader has been really just praised many, many places. Julie is a multi-time TEDx speaker and has spoken on stages throughout North America. She's a popular course creator on Insight Timer, which is the #1 ranked mindfulness app, for those that don't know. Julie holds a master's degree in health and wellness coaching from Maryland University of Integrative Health, and she is a professor at Georgetown University in their coaching program. Julie's the founder of Life Designer Coach Academy, a leading-edge certification program where she certifies spiritual life coaches worldwide. You can learn more about her at her website, juliereisler.com, which I will, of course, link in the show notes with all of her other contact points. But welcome in, Julie Reisler.
Oh my gosh, Joy, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here and just to dive in with you. Really excited.
Well, I am so excited. I was surprised that you guys agreed to let you be on the show and come and talk to us because, like I said, I came to your podcast sometime in the last few years and you are on my regular rotation. I just love the concept of the You-est You, and I would love for you to share about your journey to getting to that.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. Yeah. Well, I think like many of us that are that are really awakening and becoming more interested in being service oriented and helping people and making a difference and bringing more light and love to the planet. That sounds really esoteric, but let me say this. I think a lot of times the things that we are doing, the greater purpose we have often comes from some of the biggest challenges. And so getting to this whole being my meest me, your youest
Yeah.
you, really stemmed from doing quite a bit of time where I just really was not so connected to my most authentic self, um, to who I feel like I am. And I think some of that we can talk about it was pushing down my intuition, pushing
Yeah.
down preferences to really, I could have gotten an A+ in people pleasing and just as a highly sensitive empath, I'm real good at feeling people very quickly, and it becomes a coping mechanism, right? To
Right.
try to be a certain way. So for me, coming into this work, getting a lot of support, doing a lot of inner work, started in really in '03, I would say 2003. So
Yeah.
about 20 years ago, led me to just a deep excavation of myself and led me to working with a coach to change my life, being part of a support program that cracked open me to
Yeah.
myself, and starting this business almost 10 years ago. One of the things I realized was, having that time where I wasn't sure I wanted to even be on the planet. And you would never know that at that time. I just felt like, okay, this aspect, this gift that we have, each of us, this hero's journey we each are chose to be here and chose to embrace as, one in like 14 billion trillion chances of being here.
Yeah.
It's just like I am not okay with not being a stand, I should say it this way, with being a stand for people to really be fully actualized and to tap into your higher self, your potential, your authenticity, your self-expression, whatever that might look like. Each of us has our own gifts. So that You-est You to me is really that most authentic aspect of yourself. It's constantly iterating and changing and growing, and there's an aspect of connecting to your spirit in there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's so
Sure.
beautiful that you're continuously highlighting in your work that we do have everything we need inside of us. It doesn't mean we don't need to excavate and explore, but I know you do a lot of work with your students and the way you coach, teaching people how to honor their own intuition. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, again, this stems from I think my own experience of having this inner wisdom and not paying attention, not honoring it, not trusting it, and that led to decisions that ended up being lessons,
Yeah.
major forks in the road, growth opportunities, really big challenges, tough challenges, and I know I believe from a lot of the studies I've done and just my own experience that this our intuition is something we all have. I think it's one of our biggest gifts. It's built in. It's like batteries included. We all have it. We
Yeah.
all experience it in different ways. And so, I weave that into my coaching program, into the work I do with clients, everything I do. And my big stand is that, you know, like whoever's listening, whoever's here, that you learn how to trust and to access and to be able to decipher your own inner wisdom, intuition. Because I do believe it's like your lifeline. It's like a umbilical cord to the greater divine, which is loving and kind and helping us at all times. And so, what I've seen, and I track it, I really actually have a place where I track this, and it's unbelievable to see these miracles and shifts and what is possible when we tune into it. Doesn't mean it's always easy. So
Right.
I do bring in a lot of tools I've learned from training with the Heart Math Institute around heart intelligence, and other trainings that I've done around healing and energy healing and Reiki principles and chakras and energy work, and the healing arts. And so to me, it's we want an integrative approach because we're not just our mind. Of course,
Right.
we've got the soul, we've got the mind, body, spirit, and we've got emotion, the emotional sphere as well.
Well, and I think it's great to highlight because we are such multifaceted beings, right? But then we're
Yeah.
moving through this complicated world where, like you said, often, specifically women, not all only women, but women
Yeah.
tend to be more on the people pleasing side, or have been conditioned that way, that we need to defer to others, that we need to go with the status quo and push that intuition to the side. I love that you're tracking it. You're right. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but it's totally worth it. And it is often those pieces of ourself that we're hiding, or that we're, pushing to the side, that do need to come to the light to help us be our You-est You out in the world. It's one thing to be it inside of ourselves, right? But a totally different thing to be it in the world.
Yeah. I would add, I love what you just said, Joy, and something to add to that. What really moves me, what touches and moves, inspires, and like gives me that feeling of, oh my gosh, this is it, is I think there's like this vortex, this intersection when you are fully self-expressed, right? You're connected to what feels authentic for you, and then you put that with what the need is in the world, others that could,
Yeah.
that you could be of service to. When you take like those two axes together, the like one that's you and authentically expressing yourself, and then the other, which is being of service, I just, what I've seen is don't be surprised to see the universe, the divine, just strutting her stuff to make
Yeah.
sure you are, it is you're expanding and able to serve at a greater level, because it's really, it's the highest good for all.
Yeah.
There's an aspect of this that I think is getting the aspect of oneness, that we're all connected. We really are, even though we feel like separate
Right.
beings. That aspect, that individuated divine source in you, there are gifts and skills there that are needed in the world. The same for me, the same for anyone listening. And
Yeah.
so tuning into that, that by being your You-est You, that is a path of service, that is a path of healing, that is a path of greater love. I just believe that.
I do too. I love the way you said that. And, you mentioned it earlier. We are all on this hero's journey, this journey through our lives. And we do face challenges and trials, and things just happen to people we love in the world around us. With my work as a medium, I'm often seeing people who are going through loss of various kinds, but it can be those things that I see with clients that kind of pivot them into, okay, I've gone through this big thing, right? This big life event that's changed me in some way. And now I need to find a way to share it with others,
Yeah.
to coach, to share, to teach, to uplift others. And I love the way you weave the threads together to just help each person to be their own individual light. You know what I mean? Because we don't all have the same life or story. There are definitely common threads. What would your advice be to someone who is kind of in that middle place where they've
Mm.
come through and are still working through their process? I know that you're like me. We believe we're always working through, as we grow and change, we're still doing our work, but where they're at that point where they're thinking, okay, I want to apply this in a helping way, but I don't know the next direction for me. What would you say for that?
Yeah, it's funny. I wrote a book that is literally that. And I was thinking, I'm like, what would I say? I'm like, oh my God, I did write that. I do have a lot to say. Well, this whole idea of getting a PhD in you, this is the book I wrote that
Yeah.
actually, to be honest, wrote itself through me. I heard a greater intuitive voice that said, you need to write a book. And it felt like, let me take what I've gone through in the last 15 plus years, because this was about 5, 6 years ago now, and put it in a way that there's a lot of open-ended questions. There's a lot of activities, ways of going deep within. I mean, the first thing I would say, and that book may or may not be for someone listening, I
I
would
think
say
it's
it's,
definitely for everyone listening.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like everyone to, I don't want to, I don't know. I do know that the feedback I've gotten has been that it's been profound. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of, I really take what's helped me, the tools. I mean, the first thing we know, and if you're in a support system like a 12-step program or the first thing we always want to do is create that awareness. So if you're noticing, becoming the observer, so you're noticing I'm a little bit in the middle space, I feel stuck, or I feel like, yeah, I'm just kind of feeling like, light isn't on as much as I would like it to be. That's kind of what it felt like. My pilot light went out. I think the first thing is loving, compassion, awareness. So can
Yeah.
you even be with this with yourself, taking the judgment out of the ingredients. Can you start with observation, curiosity, the intention of being loving and compassionate with yourself, forgiving yourself, realizing, I think that awareness that in the 12-step world where I started, that's step one, right? We admitted there's something going on. So
Yeah.
being aware is the first thing, the first place you want to be. And then after that, a lot of this, I mean, I'll just say it, there's a lot of conditioning and programming in our world that we're
For
not
sure.
aware of that is, you know, fortunately for the ability for greater growth, and unfortunately for when you realize, oh my gosh, there's a lot that's set up to have you feel, not good enough, to judge yourself and others, to to feel like, to doubt yourself, to compare yourself, resentments. I mean, and so okay. And I just think forgiveness is probably one of the most healing paths we can take. So forgiving yourself for where you might be and forgiving as much as you can the world that we quote unquote live in. And
Yeah.
then the work really starts there, because then it's about how do you start changing your beliefs, your stories, and frankly, how do you start tuning into I just think we're all these geniuses. And I mean,
Yeah.
like, not in the brain. I mean, like, literally, we are made from the same stuff as planets and stars. So, how do you start to really trust yourself and follow that inner pilot light, that wisdom, intuition? I definitely write about it. There is a lot of questions and activities,
Yeah.
and, the first thing I would say though is to become aware and to be kind and compassionate and start to get clear. What is it you're noticing? And who do you feel that you really are? Like, who do you know yourself to be? Because there's a big gap, and that's where we don't feel so great, is when we know there's something that we're not expressing.
Well, and to your point, I often, the way I tell it to people is, sometimes you can pause and say, whose voice is that? Because a lot of times it's a
Yeah.
negative commentary from a teacher we had, or a coach, or a parental figure, or it's
Yeah.
not even necessarily our own beliefs and
Yeah.
ideas. It's like you said, the programming, the patterning that we're trained in. And then we're just seeing the world through imposed lenses, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought up the book, because I really feel like it's such a valuable resource for people, not even just as like a one-time use, but like we mentioned, we're ever evolving beings. Like I'm a kind of newly empty nester within the last few months. And so now I'm revisiting a lot of these questions and thoughts of who am I now, or who have I evolved into be going forward. So I think it's such an amazing resource that you've created, that we can kind of check in periodically. This is not like a one-time thing if you don't want it to be, right?
No, I mean, definitely, I would just say, and it's interesting, especially in this book, there's a whole appendix with there's a well-being life wheel, which I know we had a version of that when I was going through my master's degree, and we used it quarterly, because hopefully, if we're showing up daily to do the work, and I mean the work in just being aware and conscious and loving and asking,
Yeah.
how can I be more of my meest me? How can I be more connected to my heart, to what's true for me? Whose voice is this? All those questions,
Yeah.
what they do is they keep us from being asleep at the wheel in our life. They keep us from, going through life in a robotic way. We actually claim our sovereignty and our power when we do this work. I've seen miracles, frankly, first of all, in my own life. I mean, even talking to you, being here, having a show, having a business. I mean, all of this came out of a
Yeah.
very big, challenging turning point. The other thing I'll say, and this, I know I've shared this in my podcast, I've shared in the book, you know, we store emotions in our body. There's
Yeah.
that great book, The Body Keeps Score. When I had this health breakdown about 11 years ago, and it was around my thyroid, and I knew intuitively, Joy, the minute it was funny. I remember I was waiting to get the diagnosis or whatever they were calling it, what it is,
Hmm.
my intuition said, Julie, this is 100% related to your throat chakra, the energy in your throat, which is speaking up and speaking your voice. And what had I just done? Spoken my voice, consciously uncoupled, gotten, divorced, which is not an
Yeah.
easy thing with two young kids. And I just knew, I'm like, it is connected to speaking up. And so for me, one of the most healing things has been speaking and verbalizing how I feel. It's partly, with TED Talks, with the podcast, all of it is,
Yeah.
asking what needs to come up and out that might be of service to others. So listen to your body. Our bodies are giving us, and I go through quite a bit in the book with this around your body and its intuition and its messages. But we all have these different ways of interpreting our life and what's happening. And so paying attention without that, judgment is it's a game changer.
I agree with you. I mean, definitely the body keeps the score. That's an amazing, amazing book too.
Yeah.
And we have some similarities. It is one of the things I heard in your podcast that I felt immediately connected to you, because I had a health thing too that affects my blood and my lungs. And I similarly
Mm,
went immediately to, okay, where are all the places I'm holding my breath in my life? Where am I
yeah.
not, expressing myself? Where am I tempering myself down to try to be small, so that others can shine? So I think there's something to that. And I really love the way that it's similar to the way I work with people, where it's like, yeah, the emotions that rise up for us are the way in, or the bridge across. They are trying to tell us things about ourselves,
Yes.
not to punish ourselves, but to help guide us through to the direction that we're meant to be in, right?
100%. Yeah. And I mean, I just feel you when you're speaking about your experience. It's, this is, one thing I have been learning along the way is our body is literally just, it is responding to our thoughts and our mind and our beliefs. And so,
Yeah.
really getting, I know for me, it was really scary. There have been moments where I felt scared, like, what is happening? What is going on? And that is where, when you develop a stronger intuitive, sense and ability to decipher your intuition, and we all have it in different ways. It's something, I just know. I know we all do. I know that
Yeah.
that's something like a muscle. When you go to the gym, you can strengthen it. I actually believe you can strengthen more than just. I've seen it in my own life for sure. Not just a feeling or a sense, but a hearing, a knowing, a visioning, all of that. And to me, this is our loving lifeline. This is what the divine has literally created us with, so that we can look and say, okay, like you were so smart to tune in and say, okay, where am I holding my breath? For me, it was, where am I like dimming my light or not speaking what's true? And
Yeah.
as a recovering people pleaser, that has not always been easy. I don't love disappointing people. I don't love saying things I know that are going to be upsetting. And I've learned how to do that with love. And I've learned that that is crucial for me, to be honest, to be with integrity with myself.
Yeah.
My thyroid loves it. My body appreciates it. And it just, so we all have different messages. It's just, are we listening?
Well, and I love that it's an ongoing process for you. I mean, you're at this amazing place in your work. You're having tons of success, and you're on international stages at this point with listenership. How do you continue to check in with yourself and make sure that you are honoring that intuitive part of you?
Oh, girl, that is like,
I know
you.
it only feels like it gets harder as you go, right?
Yeah, ask my
Consequences
husband.
get
I am
more.
remarried. No, he's like, "When are you not doing this?" Like,
Yeah.
I just, I mean, it's become a way of life. And it's not all the time, every minute. I have other
Right.
aspects of my life, but I will say what's most important to me today is starting every day. And I have alarms in my phone, with messages. I'm a big fan of A Course in Miracles. So I use a lot of the lessons and reprogramming to love, and from there.
Mhm.
But for me, it's really starting out with just connecting to my heart, connecting to the divine. I believe this divine creator is within each of us. We're created from it.
Yeah.
We're outpourings of it. So for me, like, when I start getting angry, frustrated, resentful, it's a signal. Okay, Julie, because I do believe anybody that anything that's kind of irritating me is a real gift. Doesn't always feel that way, but it's a projection of something
Yeah.
going on within me. I mean, I just believe that everything in our life, that's where we get the idea that all our teachers. So, I think coming back to my intuition, using two-way journaling, using connecting into my heart using the principles of just how can I see this through the divine's eyes or heart? How can I, and then trusting my intuition. I just had something happen. It makes zero sense. And for 2 months, I kept waking up thinking, hearing, sensing, like, Julie, you've got to do this. And I just know when I hear that or sense that, there's to do it. It doesn't make sense. It's not an inexpensive thing to do. And I've just seen when I get that instruction to trust it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of faith in here. There's surrender, acceptance, but I try to really bring this concept in, I mean, this connection as often as possible. I also personally like the idea of reminding myself that, my business, my job, my purpose, it's not really mine. It's comes
Right.
through me. Um, I have a mantra that I say, which is, the universe, the divine is my employer. So I go where I'm asked to go and I trust that. And if or I don't go where I don't feel like I'm supposed to stay away. I really honor that intuition. And it also means there may be clients that I'm meant to work with and some that I'm not. And so trusting our inner wisdom, it doesn't always mean it's easy or that it comes out
Yeah.
exactly as you want. However, you know this.
Yeah.
It's always for our highest good.
Well, it's so powerful what you just said too, because there are things that that are meant to cross our path, and maybe it doesn't seem to make linear sense at the time that you're going. Maybe it's a talk that you're going to that feels maybe adjacent to what you do, but you can't understand why you're going, but you feel called to go, and maybe it's a person that you're meant to meet or a situation. There's all kinds of things going on behind the scenes. Is the way I say it, that we don't
Yeah.
always get to see. How or why things are connecting until down the line. So there is this amazing beauty in just knowing, okay, these are the nudges and I honor them. And then
Yeah.
I like that you make notes about it too. Cause I think we get
Yeah.
so much information all the time. And if we're not documenting it or even just noticing it in a conscious way, we don't realize
Yeah.
how these nudges and signs and feelings connect. So I love that you have said
Yeah.
that.
I think to add something that I did pick up from from my earlier days in the 12-step world, which is very much a spiritual program. And for me today, it's really this turning over and surrendering my life, my will, myself. And I don't mean that in a disempowering way. It's actually very empowering to say,
Yeah.
I'm going to trust today. And I have a prayer that I say that's like really around, please use me as an instrument. Allow me to hear you, sense you, speak through me so I can know what that highest good decision is. And I am giving, we have free will. So there's kind of in my mind, I'm saying, hey, listen, I'd prefer to go with divine mind versus my
Yeah.
small ego mind. Because I'll tell you, when I do life that way, I've done it. It's not as fun.
It's not as
No,
fun.
a lot of fear, a lot of smallness, small thing. It
uh,
doesn't. It's so there is something about just making a decision that I am going to lean in and really open my hands and surrender to something greater, whatever you call that, whatever you feel that is. And
right.
I do believe when you're in sync with that, that's where, your you-est you, my me-est me shows up. It's
Yeah.
like a partnership, between me and, the divine creator.
That's such a beautiful way to say it. And I think for people who are feeling like we were talking about earlier, kind of stuck or banging their head against the same wall, that's a good indication that, okay, it's time to pay attention here. There's something I'm missing. There's an emotion that I'm trying to ignore or invalidate. And then that can help even track us or shift us towards that path because, as you know, the work continues as we continue to be different versions of
Yeah.
ourselves every day. Do you have like a personal practice that you do for yourself every day that you wouldn't mind sharing?
I do. It is not a short. This is like, I'll be honest, this is what I found works well for my body, my mind, my soul. And I have redesigned and as like a former workaholic for real. Like I love what I do and I could do it endlessly. Like I find I have that addictive personality. If I like love eating something, I never want to stop eating it. It usually shows up with food, this addiction behavior. And it also it showed up in work because I don't even see it as work. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm in love with this. So for me to, I'm going a little out here, but I know just even in my astrological chart, I have 0 earth.
Oh, that's fun.
Lot of fire and
Yeah.
some lot of air and some water. And I'm like, this girl needs to, I really, especially anyone listening who's sensitive, who's highly sensitive or empath or highly intuitive, I have to ground myself, and it
Yeah.
doesn't happen in 2 seconds. So when I can do it like the way that I like to, it doesn't always happen. I can't always do this, but I do start out. I usually start it in the morning with a little bit of reading and journaling, gratitude, and some prayers that I have found really just open me up to the divine. I do a lesson from A Course in Miracles, 1 lesson a day. That's been helpful. I have an energy practice I do that literally has to do with bringing in light into my body, like just connecting into body and divine mind
I love
and that
that.
greater light. And then I try to do a yoga class. And then I have an infrared solo sauna. So by the time I'm like sweating from yoga and sweating from that, I feel like, all right, now I am
Yeah. Ready to face
ready
the world.
to face the world. And that's like a good 3 hours, all of that,
Yeah.
put together. So the short version would be, there are times I'm away and I can't do all that. It might just be a very short, connect in prayer, journaling, into a little bit of intuitive 2-way journaling, doing some, tapping or energy work, and then even just a little bit of movement, yoga poses that kind of open me up.
Yeah.
That alone, getting into nature, walking, but that really helps me to feel grounded.
That's a beautiful practice. And I'm sure that it evolved over years of you piecing together what
Oh
you
yeah.
need and honoring that. So I love that. I think people are often surprised that even when we're many years into this type of work and holding space for others, that no, we still need our practices to anchor into or ground into the way you said.
Well, I would say, first of all, I believe whatever it is I'm here to learn, I must teach. So I'm teaching and talking about these topics like right here with you. These are the most important topics to me. I am on the court with these every day. I really am,
Yeah.
because this is what I'm here for. And I think for anyone who's listening, like, well, that's a lot of different things to do. This took time to come up with that. There have been times in my life, especially when my kids were really young, it looked very different. And even just sitting and breathing for 2 minutes,
Yeah.
setting an intention. For me, what I would say is anything you can do to connect in with that greater, higher power, connection with the divine, God, goddess, whatever you call it, your higher self, anything to take you outside of that small ego, fearful mind.
Right.
And there's lots of ways to do that. I've done walks outside if that's the time I have. So we just find what works. We play with it. I don't believe there's a right way. I just think we all have our own way of connecting in. I will just say it's become a joy and a gift to do these practices. And I have a lot more energy and more to give because I
Yeah.
am, giving that to myself. It's become very important.
I love that. Well, and to your point, it can look different at different times of our life or different days of the
Yeah.
week, but I think it's special to create some version of even a few minutes of time, like you said, to just
Yeah.
connect in with what resonates with you as the
Right.
greater.
Yep.
So I love that.
And going to bed, I think, for me, it's usually talking about whatever that lesson was. And I do that with my husband. I do that with myself, and then making sure to write and just read a little bit of something, or going to bed, our subconscious, we get in that lovely space where we're really easily programmable. So what you're
Yeah.
saying to yourself at the end of the night, I love to end, with a really loving thought or thoughts. So I am very careful what I watch or listen to before going to bed as well.
I mean, that makes sense. Just we're setting ourselves up for that next phase, or for a lot of
Yeah.
people, we're moving into the astral during our sleep time, or
Yeah.
whatever else we might be doing. Even just from a rest perspective, right? If we've just watched something that's adrenaline producing or scary, or it might be more
Yeah.
challenging to shift into that restful place. So I think I like that's important. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's just, the program I have, right, this term being a life designer, right, designing our life. I just if you go with the ebb and flow of the way the world is set up,
Yeah.
I've been there, right? You get stuck in social media, stuck in comparison, stuck into TV. TV's fine in doses. I mean, all of it. And it can just be this rabbit hole. I've been there. I felt it where I'm like, God,
Yeah.
I just feel shitty.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get. So there's a bit of intention and just being proactive with, you know what? I really want to design my life to fit me, to fit my gifts, to allow you to be that instrument, that channel, and to have fun, to have
Yeah.
joy, to have
I love
peace.
that. Would you talk a little bit more about your life designer program? First of all, I just love that the interior designer for your soul. I just think that is the most amazing tagline. And from listening to your work, that is what you do. So it's a perfect
Yeah.
description, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about your program.
Yeah. So thank you for asking. Coaching, I was a psychology major. I did not want to be, my best friend's a psychotherapist. I just knew for some reason I didn't want to become a psychotherapist or therapist. And it was actually after working with this coach and then coaching in this fantastic personal growth program for about 4 years. And I remember just thinking, if I could just do this, and this was like over 10 years ago, Joy, before coaching. Like now people are like, oh, yeah, I have a coach. I have a coach here.
Yeah.
People were like, what are you doing? What?
I
So,
remember those days.
yeah, like, what are you doing? I went back and actually got a master's degree in coaching with a health and wellness focus. And fell in love with this modality, and I realized this is healing work. It's
Yeah.
using your words as the magic wand. We have acupuncture, we have intuition, we have all these ways of accessing our greatest gifts, our skills, our desires, our purpose. And so when I left my day job, left the benefits, the salary, single mom at the time, I started my business. I just love this work. I was asked to teach where I went to school, and then I was asked to teach at Georgetown University. They have an amazing health and wellness coaching program, and I've been teaching for years and years there, almost a decade actually. And I really didn't think much of it. I started doing other trainings with the Heart Math Institute, with positive psychology, other modalities that really felt like an integrative kind of add-on to what I'd done.
Mhm.
The beginning of the pandemic, I literally woke up early 2020 and heard a voice that said, you've got to create your own coaching certification. And I got to be honest, I was like, what? Are you kidding? What do you mean? Like I'm already teaching at one. And I just kept hearing, no, this is different because it's more of a spiritual life coaching. You can use it in any setting, but it's
Yeah.
coming with more of that spiritual foundation. And I can just tell you this program literally wrote itself through me in about 2 weeks. I launched it and it's going into its third year. We have our 10th cohort coming, over 100 students now and
Wow.
graduates. And I'm obsessed. I've already was teaching this, but I really brought in a lot of the tools that I wouldn't necessarily teach at Georgetown, even though I love it there.
It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's high, integrity. It has incredible framework and tools. And what I say is, look, you will learn how to help people to be to be your You-est You.
Yeah.
However, don't worry, because what you do for others and what you're learning to do for others, it's a natural, it naturally helps you to become more of your own You-est You, design your best life. So it's intense. It's a 4-month program. There's a practicum. You have clients, pro bono clients. There's a final. It's such a joy. It's like, I feel like when I'm teaching it and I have mentor coaches that I've trained now,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, universe, now I see what we're doing here. I had no idea why you asked me, but I'm in love with it. And we've had students from all over the world. It's been beautiful.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
I'm with you. I love, and the way I teach is more of a mentorship, immersion, apprenticeship. I think we learn by doing, we learn by practicing. And I've seen so
Yeah.
many people, one of my like little pet peeves is I've seen so many people go through programs, particularly for like energy healing and things like that. And then
Yeah.
they have no practical hands-on experience. So there's that fear that rises up. And then we're afraid
Yeah.
to do the thing we love in the world. So I love that your students are getting more practical experience to then check in and say, hey, I have a question about this, or it is the training wheels that I think we all need to build
Yeah.
the confidence and to start to understand, our You-est You within that framework too, because we, like you mentioned earlier, we each are bringing a very unique
Yeah.
essence of us to whatever we do.
100%. And I think one of the things that we focus a lot on is intuition and how to literally, I teach how to identify your intuition, how to trust it, how to use it in coaching with others, how to help others to unlock it for themselves. In my program, there's a 30-hour practicum. It is not, I mean, we have a lot of time for practice and Q&A and just diving into it. And what I've seen, I mean, I'll say this and I say it carefully. I know coaches that were not trained and probably do a great job. I would just say if anyone who's done a coaching program and they want to refine skills or they're thinking of it, hopefully maybe it's mine or somebody else's, do some sort of training, get the
Yeah.
foundation because you are entering another person or if you're a group, people's energy field. You're entering their stories, their traumas, you want to know how to be with that in a
Yeah.
really powerful way. And I'm a little biased because I mean, you don't have to get a master's degree in it. It's a little much, but like get some sort of training.
Right.
It's transformative. I love it because I just had a client I met with who like literally is living her dream life. We started a year ago together and actually just posted, I saw her on Friday and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like this is the gift. I'm with her, I'm helping her, but she's doing it. And she's like, Julie, I am in love with my life. Like I'm literally designing the life of my dreams. And
That's incredible.
I don't know. I think especially as women, when we are in our power, when we are empowered, when we are connected to our source of, that life source and that heart
Yeah.
source, you become magnetic, you become magical. You have no idea how all of us as lights are when you're in that space as your USU, how you are changing the world. I believe that. I think that's why we need more healers, intuitives, coaches,
Yeah.
all of us.
Yeah, and like you said, we all have it in us. It's just learning how to use it and learning how to apply it to the world around us.
Yeah.
Speaking of applying things, you have so generously offered to share a free gift with all of our listeners, the Life Coaches tool set. Will you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's actually when you had asked earlier, like a good place to start. I would say, I think my book is fantastic. The tool set is really digestible. It's got seven of some of my favorite tools, like really hands-on, user-friendly, applicable tools. If you want to start get an inside peek into your beliefs, the way that you talk to yourself, your sense of purpose and the way you spend your time, then I highly recommend it. There's a different tool for each day. It's a 7-day, has 7 tools. And there's some other little surprises in there as well. There's an audio meditation and some other things in there too. And it's just the feedback I'm getting is actually, I'm so grateful because I'm getting feedback that it's really helped people, changing their lives. Like if you use it, if you work it, it works. So
Yeah, well.
yeah, like anything, you got to kind of practice and play with it. But it's easy to play with, and it's fun. I tried to make it pretty and fun, like something I would, it's the tools I use.
Which is
So
perfect. I mean, and thank you for
yeah,
so generously offering it. I'm going to link it in the
yeah,
show notes for everyone, along with your website and contact points and all of that as well. But it is
amazing.
really just a safe way to have some instruction and roll up your sleeves and start using the tools. And it's great to have a tool set to be able to partner through life with and move through life with. So I love that.
Thank you. I believe these tools, the tools that bring greater consciousness, right, and greater awareness, greater heart intelligence, greater connection to your intuition, these are all life-giving aspects. When we
Yeah.
are in that spectrum of the emotional scale, when we are in that vibration of, connecting in and trusting ourselves, coming from compassion and love and forgiveness, it's, there's a self-expression that is possible that I believe, I believe this is like, you've probably heard the quote, world peace starts with inner peace. So
Yeah.
you want to see more world peace? it's important to do your own work to have that inner peace. And that's really one of the reasons I created this. Not
Oh,
only
it's
to
so
design your
beautiful.
best life, but how do we create more inner peace? Because I think that's
Yeah.
where it does start.
I totally agree with you. And some of our best life includes that inner peace, because how are we supposed to have our best life if
Yeah.
we're, not peaceful inside to some degree, or at least don't know how to get to places of peace for certain periods of time, even. It's not, obviously, there's no such thing as the water being calm forever. We're in this life. We
Yes.
have to do the things, right? But yeah, can you learn a way to move yourself into that peacefulness? That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is amazing. This has been an amazing chat. I do want to shift gears because I have these 4 fun and easy questions for you before we let you go. So I'm just going to awkwardly launch right into those questions.
Yeah. Bring
That's how we
it.
do
Right.
things here.
I love it.
I would love if you would just share one thing that really shocked you or was unexpected about stepping fully into yourself and your work as a coach.
Unexpected, shocking. Yeah, I mean, I have so many of those. I
I'm
mean,
sure.
I would say here I am almost 10 years into my business. This started as a whisper. I heard a whisper when I was in my day job, my 9 to 5, there's more to do here. Um, that whisper to go back to get your degree, the whisper that said, it's time to leave your job. Don't worry about the benefits and the salary. I would be on it, like, to me, and I think we could do a whole conversation on money and
Yeah.
sacred prosperity. What shocked me was my year one. I just said, if I could just make close to what I was making in the year one, like that would be amazing. I made like $2,000 short of what I was making in my salary in year
Wow.
one. And then the second year I doubled it.
That's
And
amazing.
and let me not say I doubled it. I would say we, because I do feel like the divine with me. To me, there's impact related to that. So it's not like, I don't have some crazy formula. The formula I think that works in terms of expansion, prosperity, abundance, growth is listening to your intuition, asking
Yeah.
where can I be the greatest service? Where can you be your You-est You? I just believe abundance, prosperity, it leaves clues and it's really connected to intuition. So that was shocking in a good way.
Yeah, I love that. And I do think it's shocking to a lot of us when it happens. If you could spend a day in the spirit world, like on the other side, you got the full tour, you got to spend time with everyone who you've ever known, who's crossed over, and it's almost time to return to your life, and your guide tells you you have 1 hour left and you can spend it with anyone who's on the other side. Who do you choose and why?
Well, of course, since I know that we can connect with more than one, right away, I'm like, oh, this is so funny. I'm like, it's not just one. Joy, I would have a council meeting.
Well, you
I've
already
seen this.
did all that. Like, you already did all the things.
Yeah, I had the council meeting. I mean, I of course immediately I just saw this like beautiful kind of like a retreat.
I love it.
And I had my grandmother and my grandfather on both sides. I was very close with my grandmother on my mom's side. I didn't get to meet my grandfather. They're just incredible souls. My grandmother, never a mean word. I feel like they would be there. I mean, Nelson Mandela comes to mind and
That's
heart.
amazing.
Mother Teresa, Maya Angelou comes to
Yeah.
mind and heart, like all of these, Nikola Tesla, I would bring in, and the archangels, and
Yeah.
I'm bringing all of them in. I would probably
Bring them
say
all in.
Mary Magdalene, and bring her, other half. I'd probably bring
Yeah.
in Jesus in there, and
Oh,
yeah, I would leave it open to any other light beings, but I would have a whole party.
I
I
love
can't
it.
see one. Yeah.
I love that you and I have a kind of similar guest list, so that's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. we
Yeah,
can make this the most amazing party.
right.
Uh,
It's a party. I'm a Sagittarius,
exactly.
so it's always gonna be a lot of people,
Okay.
fun. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Even though we have very spiritual gifts, we have very human lives. What's one quirky thing about you that people might be surprised to learn?
Oh my god, there's a ton of quirky things. I'm like, which one do I talk about? I mean, it's not 2 things. I would say, 1, I have to make the bed every day. I don't understand it. It's this weird. I tried it one day, I actually did on my Instagram. I shared it and I was like, it really is kind of not made. I don't know. There's a weird thing. I just feel like I need to do that. That I'd like to let that go because there's something about that feeling controlling I don't love. My other quirky thing, I make the most bizarre smoothies ever,
I
like
love it.
crazy crap in there. Um, I know there's other like weird, quirky things. Nothing is, I'm sure. I
No,
mean,
it's
you could
fine. I
ask
mean,
my
those are great. Those are great.
husband. Oh yeah. I mean, there's more like how I am. I put pig lard on my face every night before I go to bed. There you
Oh,
go.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. That's a
Uh,
good one. I'm like, there's got to be more. I know there
I
are.
think we all have lots of quirks, but I think
Yeah.
they're so integrated into us that it can
Yeah.
be. No, those
Oh
are
yeah.
great. We got a few little gems of quirks from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leave us with a pearl of wisdom. What's one piece of advice that you wish that you had had earlier on in your understanding of your gifts or the way things work?
I would say that like I don't think most of us truly know who we actually are. So what I mean is I really believe each human being, I don't care what your behavior is, what you've done or not done on this planet, is the direct lineage from the divine matrix, the creator, universe, and by that, I mean, you are made of love, from love, to love. I believe that is the
Yeah.
core of it all. And do not for 1 second underestimate the incredible, the power of love and life and flourishing that's within you. And with it, I would just say on a more grounded kind of answer is to trust your inner wisdom and intuition like your life depends on it, because I believe it does. And I can tell you, I have seen in many experiences in my past, not my past life, but in this life,
Yeah.
where really like it was close to life or death. And my intuition is always, your intuition is here to guide you to greater love, to greater healing, to greater service. Trust it, guard it, honor it, do whatever you need to connect with it and build that relationship within yourself. It is the most important relationship you have, is with your You-est You, with your intuition, with the divine. That's hands down to me. That's it.
I love it. Those are amazing pearls of wisdom. So thank you so much for sharing your light with us today and for being here. I am going to encourage everyone. I don't love the word should, so I'm just gonna put it out there as an option to check out the You-est You podcast. I'm listening to it
Mm.
regularly, so you'll be in that pool with me. And if you feel so moved, it's an incredible book, the Get a PhD in You book. And of course, we'll link juliereisler.com so you can get that amazing free gift, the 7-day life coaches tool set. And I just thank you so much for being here and sharing your light with us today. I appreciate you.
Well, and I want to thank you for just the work you're doing here, having me as a guest, just your light and heart. I
Mhm.
mean, we need a lot more of you. And so thank you for bringing me on. It's just been a gift. Loved connecting with you and with your audience.
Thank you very, very much. I am still feeling so blessed and lucky from that conversation with Julie Reisler. And I love how openly she was able to share with us about her own journey and her own kind of personal practice that she engages in these days. It's not often that we can have someone who is, a multi-time TEDx speaker, who is a professor at Georgetown, and who also lives in this work and has for, more than 10 years now, as she was saying, well, more than 20 years personally and more than 10 in her business and in her coaching programs. And let's face it, voted top 10 most influential life coaches in 2023. That's someone we want to talk to, right? So I just was grateful to get her as a guest on the show and grateful to connect with her as a soul and get to hear about her work, because she really is someone who's such an amazing example of a soul shining their light in the world for others. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. Don't forget to check out that free gift, which you can find at juliereisler.com. I will link it in the show notes, like I said, but it's that free 7-day a life coach's tool set. And who doesn't need a life coach's tool set, right? Whether you are a life coach or whether you're someone who's just starting to identify as highly sensitive or empathic or anywhere in between, I think if you know me at all, you know that I'm a huge fan of being in coaching or mentorship to some degree most of the time. I think we're all a work in progress, right? So I'm so grateful that you joined me here today. I am so grateful for Julie Reisler and the work that she's doing. Make sure you check out her podcast, the You-est You, wherever you get your podcast. And thanks again for being here with me today. Big hugs, lots of love from inside the Spirit Speakeasy.